The combustion engine ban just got delayed in the UK from 2030 to 2035. The reason for the delay was due to the cost of living pressures. After all, EVs are more expensive than traditional cars. But here's the big question. Will the US follow the UK and postpone the combustion engine ban too? That's what we're talking about today. We'll also look at why Mazda's happy with the delay, why the combustion engine ban will be a hot topic for next year's presidential election, and where different states stand on the issue right now. By the way, a lot of time and research was done to put this together, and I really want to know what you think of this video. So, while you're watching this, please comment below and share your thoughts. Many car makers are already moving to transition away from combustion engines and to an electric-only future. Needless to say, many car makers are surprised by the news that the ban will be postponed. But Mazda's doing a happy dance. It welcomes the delay as something very good for the company. To be honest, not a big surprise to hear that from Mazda. To date, Mazda's only launched one fully electric vehicle. I'm talking about the MX-30. Plus, between today and 2025, Mazda intends to release just 2 more EVs, and we still don't know exactly what these EVs will be. You see, Mazda has only promised to be fully electrified by the start of the next decade. Its predictions are that battery electric vehicles will make up anywhere from 25 to 45% of the sales then. But it's more to the story than that. Just look at Kota Matsuo. He's the general manager of powertrain development. He said that postponing the ICE ban until 2035 will give the industry more time to research alternative solutions to the emissions problem. He thinks that battery EVs are just one of various solutions to carbon neutrality. But Mazda's also betting on internal combustion engines that use carbon neutral fuels. Thing is, the EU has approved an e-fuel as an exemption to the internal combustion engine ban. So, this is yet another reason why Mazda welcomes the delay to the ban. It'll buy Mazda some time to research carbon neutral fuel. For now, the postponement of the ICE ban is happening across the pond in the UK, and it's unclear at this time whether the USA may also see a delay or not. Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets pushed back too. But one thing is clear, the ICE ban is one of the topics of discussion for the next US presidential election, which is right around the corner, coming up next year in 2024. You've got Biden and his administration. They're all for widespread adoptions of EVs across the country. On the other hand, there's U.S. former President Donald Trump. He's been very vocal about his thoughts against electric vehicles. Trump also said that EVs are too expensive and built specifically for people who like to take short trips, and that EVs leave drivers with range anxiety. According to Trump, the happiest moment as an EV driver is the first 10 minutes. Trump argues that by pushing Americans to go electric, Biden's actually handing over jobs and the nation's security to China. Reason is, China controls the majority of the world's battery minerals and manufacturing. Sharing the same sentiments, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis asked why someone would want to knowingly make the country more dependent on what goes on in China. Some states are currently proposing to slam EVs with extra taxes, fees, and legal restrictions. The purpose is to slow down EV adoption. Take Texas, for example, where an EV owner will have to pay $200 a year in additional fees to the state to make up for the lost fuel taxes. Here's the thing. Right now, EVs aren't subject to a gas tax and don't contribute to the Highway Trust Fund, known as HTF. Basically, the HTF is a transportation fund, and it gets money from a federal fuel tax of 18.4 cents per gallon of gasoline and 24.4 cents per gallon of diesel fuel and related excise taxes. The money is used to finance the U.S. interstate highway system and other specific roads. But imagine what will happen to the HTF if or when all cars go electric. That's why recently, Nebraska Senator Deb Fischer proposed a bill this past October. It's called the Stop EV Freeloading Act. The new bill, if passed, will make EVs pay into the HTF to support the construction and maintenance of U.S. roads and bridges. Reason isn't only because EVs share the same roads as gas-powered cars. The fact is, EVs weigh significantly more than traditional cars, mainly because of their large batteries. The heavier weight puts extra strain and stress on our roads, and therefore we can expect more frequent road maintenance than ever before. So the proposed mandates a one-time fee of $1,000 per EV at the point of sale. The fee would be imposed on EV makers and the money would pay into the Highway Trust Fund. Different states feel differently about the combustion engine ban. No surprise that California has been very vocal on its support for EVs and the desire to limit the sale of new gas-powered vehicles. But this past October, the U.S. House of Representatives passed Preserving Choice in Vehicle Purchases Act. Basically, it prevents states like California from pretty much forcing Americans to buy EVs and banning the sale of new gas-powered cars. Here's the thing. There's nothing more quintessentially American than the freedom of the open road and the right to choose the car of your choice. The legislation protects this by preventing states from getting an EPA waiver to the Clean Air Act. Virginia is one state that strongly is against limiting the sale of gas-powered cars. Back in 2021, former Virginia Governor, Democrat Ralph Northam, signed legislation that tied Virginia's emissions policies to the California Air Resources Board. Now, the board imposed a regimen to eliminate the sale of gas and diesel vehicles by 2035. So then Virginia was forced to do the same. Current governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, said that Virginia can't afford to be California, so it's looking to unhook itself from California's 100% EV mandate. He also said that people who think this is a forced choice between reliable, affordable, and clean are just plain wrong. In a statement to Twitter, Youngkin said that liberal politicians who previously ran the state sold Virginia out by subjecting Virginia drivers to California vehicle laws and basically tried to turn Virginia into California. But Youngkin is working to prevent what he calls the ridiculous edict from being forced on Virginians. Virginia House Speaker Todd Gilbert, too, said that Virginia is not and should not be California. North Carolina is yet another state that's strongly against the combustion engine ban. In its annual budget amendments, the North Carolina legislature included amendments that prohibited the state from adopting and enforcing a ban on the sale of new combustion engine vehicles. Yet, despite opposing the bill, Governor Roy Cooper said he'll allow the budget to become law without his signature. Because the Republican Party holds a supermajority in both the House and the Senate, this gives them enough votes to override a veto if Governor Roy Cooper decides to pursue that course of action. The Biden administration is really feeling the pressure. Here's the thing. The NHTSA proposed standards for the corporate average fuel economy, or CAFE, require passenger car and light trucks to improve fuel efficiency 2 to 4% beginning in 2027. Under the rules, pickup trucks and work vans also need to boost fuel efficiency 10% every year starting in 2030. With these standards, the agency said U.S. fleet economy could reach 58 miles per gallon by 2032. As for the 2022 model year, EPA estimated average fuel economy was 26.4 miles per gallon. The Biden administration argued that these new standards would help save Americans money and fight climate change. But not everyone agrees. After issuing these fuel economy regulations, the NHTSA received nearly 63,000 public comments during its comment period from late July to October 2023. On top of that, CAFE standards received opposition letters from a large range of stakeholders. These letters came from 26 states in the energy, agriculture, and automotive industries. There's Will Huffman. He's an executive at the American Petroleum Institute, or API. He said the NHTSA's proposal was yet another attempt by the Biden administration to restrict Americans' freedom to decide what vehicle fits their needs and budgets. Combined with the EPA's proposed tailpipe emission standard, these rules amount to a de facto ban on cars and trucks using liquid fuels, which can and should be part of a solution to reduce carbon emissions. The API argued that while it does support policies to lower greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector, it doesn't agree with the proposed fuel economy standards because it believes it would harm consumer choice, raise costs, and create a fragile transportation sector. The API also argued that the NHTSA was exceeding its legal activity by setting fuel economy standards at a level that is not feasibly achievable by combustion engine vehicles. Ford Motors commented it never paid civil penalties under the CAFE program, and yet by NHTSA's own analysis, Ford would likely pay $1 billion in civil penalties if NHTSA's proposed standards get finalized. Ford felt this was alarming and said it would create substantial economic hardship for Ford. While Ford is projected to pay $1 billion in fines under the proposal, GM's Stellantis face even higher civil penalties. Stellantis commented that the NHTSA's proposal can't be met, even with a dramatic increase in electrification in a fleet that is compliant with EPA's proposed rules. Stellantis claimed that the proposed rules were impractical and against the car industry, the agency, and administration electrification goals. Then there's the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, or AAI. It's an industry group that represents major car makers. AAI said, under the new proposed standards, companies will have to pay over $14 billion in non-compliance penalties. This would impact 1 out of every 2 light trucks between 2027 and 2032, and 1 out of every 3 passenger cars from 2027 to 2029. Put simply, it's estimated this will bump the overall car price by thousands of dollars. The AAI believe the car makers won't be able to afford the needed investments to reach the Biden administration's goal of 50% EV sales by 2030, while also making major investments in combustion engine vehicles. Automakers just can't afford to pay billions of dollars in civil penalties for non-compliance with CAFE regulations while still complying with EPA greenhouse gas regulations. By the way, NHTSA's proposal came just 3 months after the EPA proposed its most aggressive tailpipe emission standard yet, which indicates that 67% of new sedans, crossovers, SUVs, and light trucks should be electric by 2032. Then there's the West Virginia Attorney General Patrick Morris. He led 26 states in writing a letter opposing the NHTSA proposal. In the letter, the states argued that NHTSA overstepped its legal authority in issuing regulations that threaten national security and force overwhelming stress on the power grid. The states say our power grid is already stretched thin by increasing electrification across all sectors and other governmental action. And so a massive predicted increase in EVs would be too much to handle. And even if the power grid were somehow able to handle it, we don't have the supply chain to make manufacturing of these vehicles feasible. But now, you tell me, do you think the USA will follow the UK and postpone the combustion engine ban? Is your impression that the US is or will force you to get an EV one day? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.